You're at the project, sir. A bit more news.
4 Australian women's rights activists have been honoured with a stamp. Germaine Greer, Eva Cox, Elizabeth Evatt and Anne Summers have all been recognised by Australia Post for their role in shaping our culture.
How cool would it be to be on a stamp, yeah?
Yeah.
That's got to make you happy, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I think it's unlikely it's going to happen to you for women's rights.
Well, it happened for Germaine Greer, and you think that would make her happy today? Surely she wouldn't be having a crack at men today.
It's like when men cook. You know, they expect applause. They expect angel choirs singing from heaven in amazement.
And we deserve it. Cooking's hard.
Yeah,
Come on, Mike,
she's
give us a
right.
smile. I bet she's got a beautiful smile.
She's right, is she?
Oh, I'm so outnumbered here. I'm not even going to go there.
And returning now to the story that continues to dominate the headlines, as some areas of the country still face even more flooding. For Queenslanders in particular, it just keeps getting worse. In recent years, mortgage foreclosure is something we've associated with the United States. After massive flooding and Hurricane Katrina devastated the South, many Americans simply closed the door in their homes and walked away.
I'm just too old to keep starting over.
But there, banks can't go after mortgage defaulters. They just have to cut their losses. In Australia, though, if you're not insured and your house gets swept away or is basically only good for the bulldozers, well, you're still liable for your mortgage debt. Imagine paying hundreds of dollars a week for a house you can't live in. Sadly, Australia's facing a raft of mortgage defaults, and with thousands of flood-damaged homes and businesses totally uninsured, most people simply won't be able to afford to rebuild their homes or repay their mortgages. It's bad news any way you look at it. So clearly, someone's got to pay, and if the banks are going to take a big hit, the question is, are they going to pass it on to the rest of us?
So, Tom, just how bad is this?
Well, Charlie, it's going to be pretty bad. The thing is, Brisbane is a major urban centre. Many properties, thousands of properties have been damaged, and a huge majority of those aren't insured. So the economic cost is absolutely massive.
Now, so the banks will foreclose on a lot of mortgages, do you think?
Well, they probably will. I mean, they don't want to. Here's the thing. For the banks to foreclose, what they do is they come and they say, we've got to take your house, they've got to sell it, and then what happens, if what they sell it for is less than what you owed, it means that they're going to have to come after you for the difference. But trust me, it's not what the banks want to do.
So people do default on their loans and the banks are getting themselves in trouble. Are we going to see those losses through higher interest rates, do you think?
Well, we are possibly. Here's the thing. I mean, the banks will seek to recoup their profits, as insurance companies do. We actually saw back in the floods of '74 as well, property prices went down quite dramatically around the Brisbane area, and I'm afraid many people think this could happen again. But the thing is, banking is a competitive industry, and it's not easy for these banks, even if their profits are hit, to recoup them from customers. The people who take the real hit, apart from those who have lost their properties, of course, will be the bank shareholders.
So there's no way they're going to make that softer for us then?
Well, they might. You see, the thing is, as I said, banks don't want to make life difficult for their customers. I mean, everybody loves to bash the banks and say they're bastards and this sort of thing. Already they've said they're going to freeze mortgage repayments for 3 months for customers who have been badly affected by the floods. But ultimately, look, banks are a business. They're in business to make money, and if that means repossessing properties, that's what eventually they'll do.
Now, there is a flip side to this, though. Once the clean-up is finished, rebuilding has to begin. Surely that will stimulate the economy.
Yeah, it will. Look, straight away the economy is going to go down, but it's going to dip. 6, 9, 12 months from now, the rebuilding effort's going to be absolutely massive, and that will cause economic growth to trend upwards quite dramatically. But the big issue, as I keep saying, is who's going to pay for this? The argument's about to occur. It probably won't be insurance. It probably won't be the banks. I think it's going to be taxpayers.
Unfortunate. Tough times, I suppose, all round. But let's get on to a brighter story now, because it is time to welcome some Aussie actors who've teamed up, well, with one of Hollywood's biggest names. He was the man who brought us the biggest film of all time, Avatar.
Outstanding.
For his next project, James Cameron decided on Queensland to shoot the new 3D claustrophobic action flick, Sanctum.
What the hell was that?
Add Aussie acting legend Richard Roxburgh, rising star Rhys Wakefield, people launching themselves into caves and some serious underwater action, and you have a Hollywood blockbuster with some good old Aussie twang.
Exactly what I don't need to do, because cable will kill you in a heartbeat.
All right, everyone. Tom?
Richard. Well, I was just going to say, I'm a huge fan of Richard Roxburgh, sitting here.
He was just gibbering. He was
he's got a wonderful TV show. And
why don't we let Sarah introduce him, and we can
Here
crack
they
on.
are, Richard Roxburgh and Rhys Wakefield. Everyone welcome Richard.
Rake is a good TV show, but we're here to talk about Sanctum, your new film. I absolutely loved it. I've been annoying every single person I've been talking to, haven't I?
That's true, yeah.
These people aren't going to see it just to spite me, basically. Right. But it is fantastic. It was so much fun to watch, but how was it to make? It was shot in a cave and basically underwater. Was it a really tough shoot?
It was hideous. It was absolutely hideous. There was nothing redeeming about it. It was, I mean, because every single week, and there was a kind of new. You'd walk in and look at the new set and realise what you were going to be confronted with, the new kind of horrors that were going to be before you.
It was so beautifully shot though, and it looks. I don't want to sound crass, but it looks like it was a really expensive film. But I've found out it's only $30 million. I mean, how was it made so cheap?
Well, you know, the rental of the equipment's obviously expensive, and we just we came for free.
Yes. We're all billeted off. The
James Cameron's the executive producer. Surely he's got an extra $10 million kicking around in his ashtray.
You would have hoped so, but yeah, no.
Hey, look, guys, I mean, a lot of it's underwater, obviously, and I've done a little bit of scuba diving, but the stuff you guys do in that film, I mean, it's pretty scary. Did you have to do a lot of training? Had you done scuba diving before?
No, we were all trained up for the role, so it was incredibly intense. I mean, leading up to it, I was doing 2 hours of swim training and breath holds to get my lung capacity up, and you know, it was quite an intense experience. Everything you see is real, and you know, it's all terrifying.
Now, Rhys, I saw you in another film, Black Balloon, the other night, and you're obviously a very fit young man, but any claustrophobia, any injuries on this set?
You know what, I obtained a few injuries in the training and the pre-production, so I had all these cuts and bruises on my arms, which we had to keep getting. I think I actually got a cut there.
In the film, that was 2 kilometres, that jump, so that's...
Yeah, I know, soft, right? We're really soft. No, but I needed to keep the continuity up, and I had this extra 25 minutes to my makeup call time every morning just to keep these cuts.
Guys, what about 3D? It's a sort of a new old technology. Is there any different acting in 3D? I mean, in the old days, they just reach out at the camera to, you know, make people realise that this was three-dimensional. But do you act any differently?
No, look, you don't really act differently. All it represents for an actor is yet another obstacle on your sort of autobahn to spontaneous performance. It's a kind of absolute catastrophe in terms of you know, you'll be off and everything will be running perfectly, and suddenly somebody will call cut, and a makeup person will run in, and this actually happened. It's a bit embarrassing to admit on national television, but she was plucking a hair out of my nose, and not inside my nose, on my...
The same thing happened to me.
I said I never thought I had a hair there.
Oh, yeah,
okay. It's fair to say you have a prominent nose.
It's a nose, all right, but I didn't know I had hair coming out of it.
Careful about prominent noses.
But yeah, so these tiny little things, like a speck of lint on your collar, will seem like some sort of, you know, some horrible sea monster looming up in the frame. So it's weird, you know, it's a weirdness.
Now, on the topic of hair, Richard, I have to ask you, who has been a better co-star, Rhys or your wig in Hawk?
Yes, who has been your best co-star? Richard?
That wig never talked back to me. That wig never answered, but, you know, I had 3 wigs in Hawk, actually, but, you know, but I had Rhys in 3D, so...
Well, there you go.
Well, Richard played your dad in the movie. Did he start bossing you around on set? Did he take it on board?
Did life inspire art?
Yeah.
A little bit, yes. I think he tried to be a little paternal on set when we were all out of home.
These two, you actually believe they were father and son. It was actually very touching. It was... all jokes aside...
Thank you. I think he found a really great balance between the action and adventure. And
the film is going to be massive. Can I say, you heard it here first. This will be massive.
Go ahead, you predicted B-Pay, didn't you? You predicted
3 weeks ago I said B-Pay is a really cool thing to way to pay.
Onto it.
Oh, you're a genius, guys. It's so great to have you at the desk with us tonight. Sanctum is out in cinemas on February 4. Everyone, please thank Richard Roxburgh and Rhys Wakefield.
We're going to take a break right now. We're back with plenty more after this.